in my mind, death is not necessarily the opposite of life, right? I think that, life and death are two sides to the same coin. And so it's, the replenishing of life, right? It's the sleep cycle, essentially, is what I'd like to think death is. I think that's a loaded question. A lot of what forms my perspective on death is definitely a spiritual practice. So I think death can serve a lot of purposes. Again, going back to the analogy of it being like, sleep in the spiritual sense of, life is constant. And so whereas, life on this planet takes place and then death happens, and it's the, refreshing or the preparation for life again. It serves that purpose from a spiritual aspect. And then, there are other ways in which, we think about death and how it can maybe motivate us or help us work through really complex emotions that we just need to understand as people. So I think it serves a lot of purposes. Honestly, when I think to my first experience with death, I think about like being a little kid and you're like playing with the magnifying glass and you're like, putting it on ants or whatever, just like, your mom's like, go kill the fly. And, just the ease at which we can do that, right? The ease at which we like extinguish life. And, as I got older and it was like, these bugs deserve to live. And like one time this woman was like, yeah, oh yeah, I remember you, I saw her at the mall. She was like, you're the guy that wouldn't let me kill that spider. And so, that's like really my first kind of like thought process of like, life and death is just like us as people and like how we can, easily take it of other animals. Yeah, I think, I think our culture, Western American culture, has a very closed, narrow perspective on a lot of things, right? I mean, death is not easy to grasp intellectually or even spiritually. And I think that shows in our culture. Something to, be afraid of, something to be utilized, right? To incite fear. There's a lot of power in death, right? Again, to be able to, take life and how as human beings that can make some people feel powerful, right? I think it's very devoid. Our perspective is very devoid of death's just kind of inherent place in like life and nature. Yeah, that's a deep one. I don't know if I quite have the words to say it, but I think, the short version is a very narrow way. So I practice Nichiren Buddhism. I chant the words Nam-myoho-renge-kyo, which essentially means devotion to the mystic nature of life through mystic nature of cause and effect through the sound of my voice, right? And so, in Buddhism, there's the perspective really, backing up a little bit, the primary purpose of Buddhism was to find a solution of, aging and sickness and death, right? And the, the ills of the spirit that come about from that. And in my practice, as a Buddhist practitioner, we understand that things are impermanent, right? Life is impermanent. And yet, so much of of what we do is like trying to live the life state of a Buddha, right? And in the time that we have, really enjoy it, right? Have it be filled with joy and be filled with compassion. And being able to do that, I think from an intellectual standpoint, like you are able to embrace death, in a particular way. Obviously the practice is so that you get there spiritually as well. But again, Buddhism thinks of life and death as two sides to the same coin. Definitely chanting, while chanting, that's a mantra and you repeat it. There's a concept of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, which essentially means like in this moment exists past, present, and future, right? Like all phenomena that ever was, ever will be, like exist right here. And, I've really felt that in my practice of chanting and really trying to tune in with just life in this moment. And, we're all human, right? Like I think about, my own death and it felt the dread, I felt like, am I going to be missed? And, I've dealt with depression and I've had suicidal thoughts, homicidal thoughts, right? And so as a human being, I deal with that. But then on the reverse side, I've also, felt just like one with my environment around me, right? And again, in that is like all the life that's around me and knowing that like it's a part of me and I'm a part of it. And that's powerful. Man, speak to myself. Know that, Ron, know that you are loved, were loved, will continue to be loved, and that your life will truly permeate through space and time, through other people and places, despite all of the feelings as if you didn't think it was good enough. And even when you felt confident that it was, just know that no cause was wasted, truly. And, the energy of your life will continue. So Nam, comes from namaste. Really, it's like Sanskrit. So it's, kind of a picture that says 1,000 words, but like Nam comes from namaste. It's like, dedication or devotion. Myo is like what can be seen and ho is what cannot be seen. So Myoho represents this mystic, property of life, right? Renge is essentially cause and effect, right? Or the simultaneity of once you put a cause, like that effect is automatically manifested, whether you see it now in 10 years or next lifetime. And then Kyo is sutra, right? Or the sound of my voice, right? And so, just repeat that chant. You want to say it 3 times with me?
You do it.
All right. So it's, so I'll just say it quietly. So, Nam-myoho-renge-kyo, 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 Nam Nam-myoho-renge-kyo. 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 Nam-myoho-renge-kyo.